The conference room smelled faintly of espresso and tension. I'd spent 18 months chasing this deal, a billion-dollar merger that would either make or break my company's future. From across the glass table, half a dozen executives stared at me, waiting for my next sentence. The skyline shimmered behind them, Los Angeles bathed in gold. My voice was steady, my posture perfect, the kind of composure you only learn after years of pretending nothing rattles you. And then my phone buzzed. Once. Twice. A third time. I ignored it, smiling politely at the CFO, who just cracked a bad joke about women in finance. But when I glanced down, my heart stopped. Cedars-Sinai Hospital. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My throat went dry, my fingers tightening around the edge of the table until the manicured nails bit into my palm. I stood up, murmuring, "Excuse me," before anyone could ask questions. My heels echoed down the marble hallway as I answered the call. A nurse's voice, calm, professional, too calm, said the words no mother is built to hear. "Ms. Morgan, your daughter was in an accident. She's in critical condition." The hallway blurred. My reflection in the elevator door looked like a stranger, the flawless woman in a tailored navy suit, suddenly hollowed out from the inside. The deal could wait. The world could wait. Because right now, nothing mattered except getting to my little girl. 10 years earlier, I wasn't Ava Morgan, the woman leading billion-dollar deals. I was just a 24-year-old girl sitting on the edge of a twin mattress, holding a crying newborn, wondering how I'd managed to ruin my life so completely. The apartment smelled of baby powder and stale coffee. Rent was overdue. My boyfriend had disappeared 2 weeks before our daughter was born, leaving a note so cowardly it barely counted as goodbye. When I called my parents, my last hope, my mother's voice was cold. "You made your choices, Ava. We warned you about him." And my father? He didn't say a word, just hung up. That silence hurt more than anything. I remember rocking Lily in my arms, whispering promises I didn't know how to keep. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the bottle. There was a moment that night when I thought about giving up, packing a bag, leaving the city, disappearing. Then came the knock. I opened the door to see Grandma Rose, wrapped in her old wool coat, eyes full of something I hadn't seen in weeks, kindness. She didn't scold. She didn't ask questions. She just walked in, took Lily from my arms, and said, "You rest. I'll take care of her for a while." Before she left, she pressed a small silver locket into my palm. Inside, a tiny folded note. "Don't chase approval, sweetheart. Build something that lasts." I cried harder than I ever had. Not because of the pain, but because someone finally believed I could still build something. That night, I made a vow. If my parents couldn't see my worth, I'd create a life that proved it. If the world expected me to crawl, I'd learn to fly. So, with Lily asleep beside me and that locket against my heart, I opened my laptop, searched for entry-level finance jobs near me, and hit apply on every single one. I didn't know it then, but that was the night Ava Morgan was born. The version of me who'd never beg for love again, only build her own way to it. The first job I landed was as a junior assistant at a mid-sized finance firm in downtown Los Angeles. The pay was humiliating, the hours brutal, and the respect non-existent. But I showed up. Every single day. At first, no one noticed me, just another overworked single mom trying to survive. I'd drop Lily off at daycare at 6 a.m., take the first bus downtown, and sit at my cubicle pretending I wasn't falling apart. But while others complained, I listened. I watched. I learned how the partners negotiated, how deals were structured, how confidence could be weaponized like currency. At night, when Lily finally fell asleep, I'd study finance, economics, law, psychology, anything that could help me understand the game I was trying to win. Some nights, I'd look at her tiny hand resting on my chest and whisper, "Someday, you'll never have to worry like this." That someday became my obsession. One morning, I stayed late to rework a client's proposal, something way above my pay grade. The next day, Clara Jensen, one of the firm's senior partners, called me into her office. Clara was everything I wanted to be: elegant, composed, and unapologetically powerful. She looked at me over her glasses and said, "Yuri wrote that pitch." I froze. I was just trying to help. She smiled, slow and knowing. "You didn't try to help, Ava. You just saved us a six-figure account." That was the moment everything shifted. Clara became my mentor, my first real ally in a world built to underestimate me. She taught me how to be heard without shouting, how to stand still while men circled like sharks, and most importantly, how to negotiate without ever losing your soul. Years passed. I rose through the ranks, analyst, associate, director, each title a battle scar I wore proudly. But every victory came with its price. There were nights when Lily's school plays went on without me, mornings when she'd ask, "Mom, do you have to work again?" And I'd smile, pretending her voice didn't crack something open inside me. Still, I kept going. I had to. When promotions came, I didn't post them online. When bonuses hit my account, I didn't tell anyone, not even my family. I kept my success private, my power quiet. Because I wasn't chasing applause anymore. I was chasing freedom. By 33, I'd saved enough to launch my own firm, Morgan Capital, an all-female investment group focused on tech startups. It was small at first, but it grew fast. Investors called me ruthless. I preferred relentless. The irony? My parents still thought I worked somewhere in accounting. They had no idea that their daughter was quietly building an empire, one deal, one sacrifice, one sleepless night at a time. And though the locket around my neck had started to tarnish, its message never did. Build something that lasts. I didn't know it then, but I had. I'd built myself. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and fear. The fluorescent lights hummed above me as I walked through the emergency wing, my heels clicking too loud for a place that held so much silence. At the front desk, a nurse glanced up. Name? Ava Morgan. My daughter, Lily Morgan. She was in an accident. Her expression softened. She's in surgery. Please wait in room 214. I barely remember the walk there. Just the sound of my pulse in my ears, like waves crashing against glass. When I pushed the door open, time stopped. My mother was sitting in the corner, hands clasped, rosary tangled in her fingers. My father stood beside her, stiff, pale, the same man who once told me I'd never make it on my own. For a second, none of us spoke. Then Mom whispered, "Ava?" And for the first time in years, she looked at me not with judgment, but fear. I couldn't even look at them. My eyes went straight to the small window on the wall, where I could see Lily lying still on a hospital bed, tubes and wires everywhere. Her skin was too pale. Her lips barely moved. My knees buckled. I grabbed the edge of the counter and whispered, "Please, please don't take her from me." When the surgeon finally came out, his face was calm but unreadable. "She made it through surgery," he said. "But the injuries are severe. Recovery will take time, maybe months." Relief flooded me, followed quickly by guilt. Months. I had missed months of her life already, school plays, birthdays, mornings when she just wanted breakfast with her mom. My father cleared his throat. "You'll need help with all this. Medical bills, therapy." He hesitated, as if waiting for me to admit defeat. I looked at him, steady now. My voice came out quiet, but it filled the room. "I can afford it." He frowned. "Ava, this isn't a time for pride." "It's not pride, Dad," I said. "It's a statement." Before he could respond, my phone buzzed on the chair beside me. The screen lit up with a name that made his eyes widen. Victor Hale, CEO, Titan Holdings. He looked at me, confused. "Victor Hale? As in?" "Yes," I interrupted softly. "As in the company I'm merging with." The color drained from his face. I took a breath and let the truth spill out. The deal, the company, the fact that I owned 42% of Morgan Capital, and that today's meeting was about finalizing a billion-dollar acquisition. For once, they were speechless. My mother's rosary slipped through her fingers, beads scattering across the floor. Her voice shook. "Ava, we didn't know. We thought you were just struggling." I said. "You just never stuck around long enough to see me rise." Silence.
heavy.
You could almost hear the years of distance collapsing between us. Finally, my father whispered, "You did all that on your own?" I smiled, small, tired, honest. No one does anything completely alone. I had Lily. I had a mentor who believed in me. I had a reason to prove the world wrong. They both looked down, ashamed, maybe, or just stunned by the woman standing in front of them. And in that moment, I didn't feel angry anymore. Just free. The nurse returned to say Lily was being moved to recovery. I nodded and followed, passing my parents in silence. For years, I had imagined this confrontation, me throwing their words back at them, making them regret every cruel thing they'd said. But standing there, watching my daughter fight for her life, I realized something simple. I'd already won. Not because I had more money, not because I'd proven them wrong, but because I'd learned to define success without needing their approval. I was finally the woman Grandma Rose told me I could be, strong enough to build something that lasts. Lily's recovery took weeks. Weeks of waiting rooms and whispered prayers, of beeping monitors that measured both her heartbeat and mine. Every morning, my parents came to the hospital. At first, they stood awkwardly in the doorway, unsure whether they were welcome. Then slowly, they began helping, bringing coffee, folding blankets, sitting quietly beside Lily's bed. I didn't say much. I just watched. They weren't the same people who'd turned me away a decade ago. The pride in their eyes was gone, replaced by something raw, remorse. One night, after Lily finally drifted asleep, my father sat across from me. His voice cracked in a way I'd never heard before. "I should have been there for you, Ava. We both should have." My mother reached out, tears glistening. "We were wrong. You didn't need our approval. You needed our love." For a moment, the younger version of me, the scared girl holding her baby in that cold apartment, wanted to cry, to fall into their arms and let it all go. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I took a deep breath, my tone calm but unyielding. "If you want to be part of our lives, there are conditions." They both froze. No judgment. Not toward me, not toward Lily. No more pretending we're perfect. We show up, fully, even when it's uncomfortable. I looked at my mother. "You always wanted to paint. You gave it up because Dad said it wasn't practical. I want you to start again. Create something. Anything." Her eyes widened, then softened. Then I turned to my father. "And you stop trying to control everyone around you. You don't get to fix us. You just have to love us as we are." He nodded slowly, a tear slipping down his cheek, the first I'd ever seen from him. "We'll try, Ava. We'll do better." I smiled faintly. "Don't try.
Do."
Lily deserves grandparents who heal instead of hide." The words hung there, not harsh, not forgiving, just true. For the first time, I felt power that didn't need to be shouted. The kind that comes from knowing you survived without anyone's permission. As they left the room that night, my mother touched the locket around my neck. "Your grandmother would be proud of you," she whispered. I smiled softly. "She's the reason I'm still standing." When the door closed, I looked at Lily, her tiny frame sleeping peacefully, machines humming steady. That's when I realized the full circle of it all. I had built companies, led deals, made headlines, but this, setting boundaries with love, this was the hardest and most powerful negotiation of my life. Because this time the terms were mine. 3 months later, the hospital room was replaced by sunlight. Lily's laughter echoed through our home, soft, unsteady, but alive. She was walking again, slower than before, but every step felt like a miracle. I'd cleared my calendar, postponed every meeting, every deal. For once in my life, I wasn't managing anyone else's future, just being present in my own. Every morning, we'd sit on the porch with pancakes and cocoa. She'd talk about school, about friends, about painting, a hobby her grandmother had started teaching her. Watching them together, I saw something I never thought I'd witness again: peace between generations. My parents kept their word. Mom painted for hours every evening, wild, messy colors that finally looked like freedom. Dad volunteered at a local shelter, helping kids find scholarships. It wasn't about redemption. It was about growth. One evening, Lily came up to me with my locket in her hand. "It's getting old, Mom," she said softly. "Why do you still wear it?" I smiled, brushing her hair back. "Because it reminds me how far we've come." She opened it and frowned at the faded paper inside. "What does it say?" The ink was barely visible, but I knew every word by heart. "Don't chase approval. Build something that lasts." Lily tilted her head. "Did you, Mom? Build something that lasts." I looked at her, this brave little soul who had survived more than she should have, and felt tears sting my eyes. "Yes," I whispered. "I built us." She smiled, slipped the locket back into my palm, and hugged me tight. As the sun dipped behind the hills, I looked out at the horizon, the same city that once made me feel small, now glowing beneath my feet. I thought about the boardrooms, the late nights, the power plays, all the moments I believed success would finally make me feel whole. But real power, real success, was sitting right there beside me, with chocolate on her cheeks and love in her eyes. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to prove anything to anyone. Because I had learned the simplest truth of all: you can lead a billion-dollar deal, but it means nothing until you learn how to lead your own heart.